Hey y'all, it's your girly man Maui Doster with another episode of my so-called disabled life. So I've been continuing on the whole journey of meeting brand new disabled folks that I've not interacted with before because why not, Also, spring is next week because daylight saving time is coming and the snow is melting, even though it's supposed to snow again on Tuesday. And I just want to know Mother Nature, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? I haven't left the house in a whole week because of the snow. So please, Mother Nature, ease up on the snow. Please and thank you. Um, in any event, I'm so excited about this episode. I've got a new wonderful lady, Gina Martin, and she is in Canada, and she is the founder of Disabilities Programs Inc. And she's a disability awareness educator, a speaker, and a woman living with multiple disabilities, including blindness. Her work is rooted in lived experience and shaped by one powerful belief that accessibility works best when it is built in from the beginning, not added as an afterthought. Yes, I love that so much. So welcome so much, Gina, to the show.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, for reaching out and inviting.
Wonderful. I'm so excited. So I start all of these episodes just with a general question so that people can really and truly get to know you. So who is Gina and why do you do what you do?
Well, I am somebody who struggled actually for a really long time with accepting my disabilities. And, I've got over 4 decades living with multiple disabilities. And I found that my disabilities actually weren't my biggest barrier. It was the built environment and the social stigmas and attitudes towards people with disabilities. So I wandered around this world pretending I was sighted for the first 23 years of my life. I didn't want to identify as somebody as a disability. I didn't want to use a cane. I didn't want to draw attention to myself or have people say I'm faking it because I had some sight. And so I struggled each and every day navigating life until I met a couple of women who were both confident and blind. And it absolutely blew my mind. So I learned about the Louisiana Center for the Blind, and I spent 9 months under blindfolds being trained by people who are blind how to navigate life again, only different than when I had sight. And that training gave me the confidence to step out of my comfort zone, embrace life, and start my own business. And I started Diverse Abilities to bring awareness to society about disabilities because disability is such an uncomfortable topic for a lot of people. And, they're often worried about offending someone or saying something, that might make them feel uncomfortable or awkward. And us older folks were also taught don't look, don't stare, and don't ask questions. So we will never have inclusion until society knows how to interact with people who are blind, communicate with people who are deaf or have speech disabilities, understand that the majority of disabilities are non-apparent, or if you don't know what accessibility really is, that word inclusion isn't going to be something that is going to happen.
I absolutely agree. And I love that you started out with that because I think that some people they first I've felt like my lupus got developed when I was around 11 and I didn't get diagnosed till I was 17, and then I became an amputee about 13 years ago, and all throughout that it was people with those lived experiences who helped me deal with those transitions into becoming more and more disabled, but more importantly they helped me to feel not bad about it. They help me to be like, you can live your life this way. It's not a death sentence. You're not going to suddenly yeah, it's not going to be easy all the time, but it's not completely impossible. So when you were, doing a lot of those tests with the folks in Louisiana and like learning more about your whole identity, what was that like going through that whole process of like finding your disabled identity?
Um, it was 9 months of intensive rehabilitation because I had about 10% peripheral vision remaining, and to put on a blindfold, learning shade, I like to call them, and learn how to do everything all over again. For me, I think I cried every day for the first 3 months. It was intense, but after starting to learn new skills and new techniques and new ways of doing things and having those small successes and those wins and that building the confidence, it just taught me that it's okay that life is different. There's nothing wrong with being different. We just learn new ways of navigating either through different tools, techniques, technology, and the connections and learning from each other. There's not one way to do everything. There's multiple ways of doing things. And when we get connected with people going through the same thing, it builds our knowledge and our opportunity to be able to share with others that can make others' lives easier. So that training really just shifted that I can't to I can, but only different. And I don't know. I don't think anything really stops me much anymore. We had to do whitewater rafting, rock climbing, zip lining, learning how to bowl, all with no vision at all. And so that just said nothing can stop me from at least trying.
I love that so much. And I think that that's such an important point to bring up, that like, number one, disability is incredibly common. Lots of invisible disabilities out there that people aren't even paying attention to. And two, we're all different and we're all humans, and not one person is a superman, no matter how healthy you are or how impenetrable you think your human body is. We are all susceptible to disability. So it's
Absolutely. In all of my programs that I teach, I kind of started out. Have you ever experienced a broken ankle? Have you ever experienced pulled muscles? Flying in a plane and your ears are plugged, dental work, and you can't speak or drink or eat as like you always have. Every person has experienced disability. They just don't always consider it disability. It's an inconvenience for a small period of time. And we are all going to age. Every single one of us is going to need some accommodations and some assistance because our eyes, our vision, our hearing, our mobility, our dexterity, our memory, it's a natural process of aging. So accessibility benefits all of us. It's not a small minority. The disability community is the largest minority in the world, the easiest one to join, and the hardest one to leave. And disabilities don't change who we are, but they change our interactions with the world.
absolutely. So speaking about those the how we interact with the world, how were the responses from other people, like outside the disabled community, or even people with different disabilities? How were their responses to your sort of like newfound like disabled pride, and like, okay, I've done this, I did all these things, now I'm out here I am world. Like, what was that like, dealing with that, and did you experience any discrimination?
I haven't been experiencing as much discrimination because because I like to teach society, we're going to break through barriers when society has a better understanding. And so when I'm bringing in people's own lived experiences, either for themselves or their loved ones, it gives people a little bits of aha moments. Like, oh, I never considered that. I never thought of that. I never realized or thought maybe I might need uh, that access or those supports. And I feel like people really listen when we are real with each other. I'm not preaching to you. I'm not telling you, I'm sharing my lived experience. I'm sharing experiences that people in the disability community face and the barriers we face. And the majority of the people in the disability community that I meet, our disability isn't the biggest barrier. Like I said at the very beginning, it is the built environment and people not understanding. If the society isn't really connected with anybody who has disabilities, I don't think they realize how far we've come in the background in the last 30 years, right? With technology, with supports, with training, with just the conversations and the connections. We've evolved so much in the background that there isn't that many barriers besides what I said, the built environment and the attitudes, because we have the tools and devices that allow us to navigate life. We just do it a little bit different.
Mm. Oh gosh, I so appreciate you bringing that up as well, because I don't think some people, I think people outside the disabled community think that we're getting all the things we need or all the accommodations or all the supports. And I've had so many people who have no experience with disability be like, "But wait, I thought you'd get this and get," and I was like, "Homie, I ain't get shit. What you talking about? I ain't, what you, like that's not a thing." But it's like it's incumbent on all of us as a society and as like bigger and smaller communities to make sure that those things are in place so that we are supporting each other. So I appreciate you so much for bringing that up. Um, so what brings you disabled joy in the community when you're, living your life?
What brings me joy? Well, I love adventure. So I like trying new things. I like to have experiences. For me, it's not about being great at it. It's about being included. It's about, trying. And I really am big on trying things twice. Just because the first time when we don't really know what to expect, I feel like my guard's up a little bit. I'm a little bit protective. I'm maybe nervous, but once I have the experience and I know what it's about, I feel like the second time is going to be a different experience. So I encourage trying things twice. Yeah.
That's great. I love that. And when you're thinking about the things that you're, because I love that you brought up like some of the sports and some of the things that you were doing, like the what did you say, rock climbing and
Zip
whitewater
lining.
rafting, zip
Yeah.
lining. Oh gosh, so what has that been like as a disabled person? Because I've been curious, but I am not that brave. So what's it been like?
I experience it different than others. But I just like to participate. I like to try things. I like the adrenaline rush. I have ADHD as well, so that dopamine feed really helps me just, yeah, it fuels me. So I don't know, I'm just an adventurer.
So what's been your most adventurous thing you've done?
Oh, well, the most adventurous? Well, I've done those. I've knocked so many. Once I did my training in 2016, I spent 2017 traveling around the world and knocking things off my bucket list because at that point I had the most vision that I was going to have for the rest of my life. And so, do I wait until I'm 65 and I retire to do the things I want to do, or do I do them now while I have my abilities that they're most heightened? So I've done tons of different things. I've hot air balloons, helicopters and walked on glaciers, the zip lining, whitewater rafting, axe throwing. Like I'm really willing to try most things. Skydiving is on my list. I haven't done it yet, but I've done the I fly where the air's pushing you up and you're simulating flying. I've flown a small plane. I yeah, there's like I say, I'm willing to try everything. Yeah,
That
and
is
I keep
so
adding.
cool. Oh, I,
Yeah,
I love that so much. Definitely keep adding, and this is a message for all y'all. Try something once. It's all good. You
yeah.
might have fun. You never know. That's
And if you
awesome.
don't, then you don't, right? Then you're like,
Yeah.
well, at least you can say I tried it,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? So,
Exactly.
like, I tried
I
it, didn't like it, won't do it
I
again.
love that you did all those cool adventurous things. That is so awesome. Um, so you talked about some of your joy and the trainings that you enjoy doing. What are some other things that you do with, you do your adventures or you do, your training and stuff. What are some other things that you enjoy doing, especially as your body becomes a bit more disabled as you age? What are some of the things that you enjoy doing?
I enjoy people. I'm a real people person. I enjoy having dinner parties, playing cards, going out. My husband, we ride motorcycles. I don't actually drive it. I'm on the back, obviously, but just love kind of to get out there, get the fresh air, and just the time with people. That really fills my cup.
I love that so much. And you mentioned your husband. What's it like being married with your disability sort of like becoming a bit more as you get older?
Well, like I say, we're all going to have our challenges in life, and having that partner that, supports you and encourages you and, says, yeah, you can do it. And if you can't, I'm here. Right. So I met my husband during COVID. We met online and um, we're Team Georgina. Like we're Team Georgina, and I don't know what else to say. It's pretty awesome.
I love that so much. I love it's really a great thing when you have a good partner on your side who's actually supportive and uplifting. My husband's the same way. We've been together 10 years and he's so great. So that's so awesome. I love that so much. So if you could change one thing about the world, what would it be and why?
If I could change one thing, I would change just, how people understand disability and the perspectives of it. That's what I would change because we are all unique. Every single one of us has challenges. If it's not disability, it might be marital, financial, work. It could be, so many different things. Kids, every single one of us has challenges. And so when we can start looking at each other as equals and embrace our differences, I think that we're really going to learn from each other that we're really not that different.
That is so great. I love that. And so you were living in Louisiana before, now you're up in Canada?
I'm born in Canada. I lived in
Okay.
Victoria my whole life. I just traveled to Louisiana to do the
Mhm.
training in the States because it's far superior than Canada. And
Mm.
so you really can't get amazingly great at things if you don't immerse yourself in it full time. If you want to learn to play an instrument and you play it once a week, like it's going to take a very long time to get good at things. And life is too short to take years and years and years to learn blindness skills in order to live your best life. So I felt like jumping in and spending 9 months and, doing something that's going to be really hard, that is going to change my life for the rest of my life, I felt was worth it. So that's why I spent the 9 months in Louisiana, because of all of the successes of the students that had completed the program in the past.
That is so great. I love that you were willing to go literally to another country and then learn all the things that you needed to do for yourself and your self-care, and then brought your skills and your experience back to Canada. And I know a bunch of people who live in Canada who've told me some very interesting, very like some of them been horror stories about experiencing what it's like to have a disability and live in the country. So what's it like when you went to Louisiana and got your training and then went back to Canada and having to adjust being back in Canada?
But you know what? I didn't get a lot of supports from the training that we had here, and I feel like just when I came back, I was a completely different woman. So my interactions with people became different. I was more confident in, just having the uncomfortable conversations with people to try and, bring out the conversations. Let's start having them, so that when things do happen to other people, we're a little bit more mindful of what is out there and what can be done and how we can just shift our own, you know, perceptions, I guess, as to what life is going to look like. And so when people can see how I'm living my best life now by learning alternative ways of doing things, and yeah, it's just my life is different than when I had sight. And there's, like I said earlier, there's nothing wrong with different. You may look at a pretty pink hydrangea bush with your eyes, but if you let me know it's there, I'm touching it, I'm feeling it, I'm touching the petals, I'm smelling the flowers, I'm hearing the bees. So I'm seeing and, looking at that beautiful hydrangea bush. And sometimes I'm like, I think I'm experiencing it a little bit better than somebody who's just using their vision. And so encouraging my family and my friends to have experiences the way that I have them helps them better understand how I navigate life. So,
I love that too, because I have some severe inflammation in my body because of my lupus. So I also can't fully taste and smell anything. But sometimes when I taste certain things, I can taste the color. And it's very
mm,
strange to describe that to people, being like, "Oh gosh, that tastes so bright and yellow." And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "I can't describe it. I'm just telling you when it's in my mouth, I feel yellow and bright." And it's usually with like citrus fruits or with certain vegetables. And it's just like such a so I really do appreciate you going into that whole like, yeah, I might not be able to see the flower, but I can smell it, I can feel it, I can hear the bees. Like that is such a beautiful, valid experience as well. Wonderful. I love that so much. Um, so what has been something that's been so, like, exciting about finding your finding yourself in your disabled identity? Like, what's been the most exciting thing about that?
the most exciting thing about finding myself in my disability is just developing my programs and teaching kids and breaking through barriers. That has been what's most exciting for me is seeing the shift in people's perspectives and there being more kindness around the understanding. That's, I think, what's most exciting for me.
I love that. More kindness. Yes. And then I think some people forget sometimes that one, there's a difference between being nice and being kind. And two, being kind in my mind is above all else. Because if you're
Yeah.
not kind to somebody, then I don't think you can have any bits of like empathy or compassion or, seeing them as a full person, a full human being. So I love that. That's so great.
That's
Yeah.
why I feel like kids are our future, and that's why I love teaching kids. If we can teach kids to be outside the box thinkers, if we can teach kids to be thinking about what accessibility really is when they start thinking about building their designs and websites and, products and, making it more inclusive. I like the youth are the ones who are a little bit more or they are a lot more accepting when they have a better understanding about people and their differences. So, when I have kids that will come to me and I've done a presentation for them, and then I see them next year and they say, I have not been bullied since you were in my classroom. I'm like, I'm doing what I'm doing and I love what I'm doing because I am making a difference.
I love that so much. That is so awesome. And I think that some people like just discount children as, oh, they're just over there, but like they're little human beings. They're just smaller.
Yeah.
That doesn't discount their feelings, their emotions, how they can have so much more empathy and compassion for folks who are going through things because they're so new to the world, and they're just like, yeah, of course I'm gonna accept. Why wouldn't I accept you? And that
Yeah.
reminds me of my nieces and nephews. They're 13, 10, and 9. And I've been in their life their whole lives, but now every time I go over their house, if they have their friends over, they're like, "You have to come meet my auntie. She is the best disability advocate ever, and you better be nice." I'm just like, where did you guys
Yeah.
get that? But they got it because they want to include auntie, and they bring that inclusion to their school, and I just think that is so awesome. I was just literally just sitting there hanging out with them their whole lives and had that impact. So I so love that you're going in there educating your children about true disability equity, because I think that's so important.
I think what for me, one of my biggest pet peeves is when I'm walking down a sidewalk or a street or I'm in a mall or I'm, you know, and a child is like, what's that? Because I have a white cane. And the mom's like, shh, 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 or the parent or the adult is shh, 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 and pulls them off to the side. Like that is like my moment of opportunity to educate both, right? It's like, oh, just so you know, it is not helpful to be quiet around people who are blind. I know you think it's polite to be quiet and move out of the way, but really, if you think about it and you closed your eyes and everybody was quiet all the time, it'd be pretty isolating. So I say to the child, I say the number one thing you can do when you meet people who are blind, that in the community, and you can tell when somebody has low vision or who is blind because we use a cane. It's white so that all of you know that that cane lets you know that we are low vision or blind. And it's called a cane. It's not called a stick or a pole. Like, call things what they are. But when you say hello, a few really awesome things happen for those of us who don't see. For one, you let me know you're there. I won't trip you with my cane accidentally. Two, you let me know you're there. So if I needed help, I could ask you. And three, those of us who are blind or have low vision, we miss out on smiles, nods, waves, and those friendly gestures people give each other all the time. So your verbal hello is taken as a smile. And you made my day when you say hello, because it might be the only smile I see in a whole day. So that, like, 1 to 2 minutes of conversation with that family will probably change the next interaction they have when they encounter somebody who is blind or low vision. And it's remembering that when you've met one person who is blind, you've only met one person who is blind, because none of us are the same.
Absolutely. And I so love that you brought that up because I've had that. I mean, living in New York, there's always people around. And so I'm constantly running into folks, especially if I'm in Manhattan and I'm around tourist folks there, and there's constantly people either staring at me and stopping up the flow of walking traffic, or shooing their kids along because they're staring at my metal legs and my walker, or saying, oh, don't talk to her or whatever, as if I'm not a whole person, or as if I don't talk. And I've had a lot of conversations with parents in the street being like, I can talk, I can speak. I am happy, so happy to answer any questions that your child may have. Well, also, parent, if you have some weird comments and questions, that's a big no, but I will answer the kids' questions 1,000%. So have you ever had anyone say anything like weird or awkward to you?
Oh, of course, you always have people saying weird or awkward things because they don't know and they're curious. And so I really encourage people when I am speaking with them, to not ask personal questions until you get to know somebody, because, it can be really uncomfortable and it's really none of your business. And so I encourage people to say things like, hey, what do you enjoy doing? Or could you please tell me, where are the barriers still for you? Then you're going to have a meaningful conversation. Like, when you ask anybody any personal questions, I'll say, you could have just triggered me from a very terrible experience. I'm going to tell you it's none of your business. You're going to walk away and never think of me again, but you have set me into a whole, other space of remembering something very traumatic that has happened to me. So, instead of assuming or guessing, don't ever do that. Always ask the person, but avoid the personal questions until you know them, and that's a comfortable topic for both people to have.
I totally agree with that. I have had some very, very brave, forward people in New York who have asked me some things, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
well, first of all, you wouldn't walk up to a woman without a disability and ask her about her dating habits or
Yeah.
her sex life, or if she can pee or poop, or how her body functions. Well, you wouldn't do that. So why are you
Yeah.
doing that to me? Like, you guys, read the room. Go on now, you know? So
Yeah.
that's yeah, that's so wild. So I'm yeah, that's great advice. Don't ask any deeply personal questions until you know someone. And even if you know someone very personally, you might want to
Exactly.
pause.
It's got to be the, depending on the situation, of
Mhm,
course, and the
mhm.
people, but it's really, we are all just people. Like, we're just people. Like every single
Yeah.
one of us has, different supports at home, school, and work. Every single one of us has, different financial opportunities to purchase the tools and devices that make life easier. Or, we don't all have the same opportunities for training and rehabilitation. And every one of us is at a different acceptance in our own journey with disability. So, we aren't the same, just like everyone else. We're not the same. And if you are neurodivergent and your brain works a little bit different, like we're all just different. We may have some traits that are the same, but people who don't have disabilities have same traits as well, or same preferences, or same abilities in some situations. But really, all of us are unique individuals, and take the time to get to know some of us with disabilities, because I honestly didn't know a lot of people at the beginning of my disability journey because I didn't want to identify and I didn't feel I needed to be connected. But since I am involved as an advocate and in the disability community, I have to say, like, we are the coolest community of people. Really, like, we are outside the box thinkers. We're kind, we're compassionate. We understand that life is tough sometimes, and we make space and hold space for others because people do it for us. And so I really feel like the majority of the people that I've been meeting in my world and in my life that have disabilities, we really are the most awesome in so many ways.
I agree and confirm. Absolutely. That yeah. I love everything you're bringing up because I feel like it shows just how unique we all are and how diverse we all are, especially in this one community. Folks automatically assume, oh, if you're blind, it's all the same. If you're deaf, it's all the same. If you're an amputee, it's all the same. If you have autoimmune, it's all the same. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
not even a little bit. But
Yeah.
that doesn't take away from the community that we've built in our very diverse community to like uplift and support each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. Uh, well, this has been such an awesome chat. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with everyone?
One thing that in all of my programs, so I have two different programs. I have the ADAPT program, which is a disability awareness practical teaching, and I have my IDEAL program, which is inclusion, diversity, equity, accessibility, and language. And in an ideal world, everyone would belong, and accessibility benefits everyone. But I think that one of the most powerful things that we have is the power of our words, and the words that we choose when we speak about ourselves and we speak about others. We can lift people up, or we can unintentionally knock people down. And so examples that I will bring into, my presentations and programs is the term visually impaired. It is the most common term used to describe vision loss. Most people, when you say that, they know that you are experiencing sight loss. But what is the first thing you think of when you hear that word impaired? Is there anything positive about that word at all?
Not at all.
So, for the first 27 years of my vision loss journey, I said, I'm visually impaired 5 to 20 times a day. Excuse me, I'm visually impaired. What bus is coming? Excuse me, I'm visually impaired. How much is this? Excuse me, I'm visually impaired. Can you tell me XYZ? So, it's the way that I introduced myself to every person that I met. When I changed my language and I said, I'm partially sighted, I have low vision, I'm legally blind, it took me 6 months to break the habit of saying visually impaired, because when we're used to saying words, they're kind of, they're automatic, they're rhythmic, they're, what we're comfortable saying because we're used to saying it. But when I switched after that 6 months and started saying I'm partially sighted and low vision, I really started to feel better about me, because I wasn't using a negative word over and over and over again to describe myself. I stopped saying I'm disabled. I started saying I have a disability. I'm not disabled. The built environment and the social stigmas disable me, but I'm not disabled. It's my body and my brain work different, but that doesn't make me disabled. And so, I'm not handicapped. I don't need a handicapped, you know, accessibility like washroom. I need an accessible washroom. I'm not handicapped. So just those words really make a difference in when we're talking about ourselves or others. So if a word is negative, I encourage people to choose something different until the person you're talking to says, I prefer visually impaired. Like, if you don't know, choose something kinder. Like it's, yeah. So I just
No,
feel like that's such an important message.
I love that so much because I was speaking, I can't remember who I was talking to a couple weeks ago about language mattering and how when you're speaking those words out loud, your brain can't tell the difference of whether it's a good or a bad thing. And if your brain starts to get convinced deep inside that something is negative about you, then your body is going to feel more negative about what's going on. And the same goes for even going farther out there, even with the universe and even with intentions and all that stuff. The universe can't tell that you're making a joke about yourself, even if it's disparaging. It can't tell that you're saying something about your body and the world and separating some of the inaccessibilities and disabilities. So I really appreciate you bringing up the fact that speaking positively about yourself changes some of your interactions with people outside of yourself.
And
So
if
that's,
we're
I
going
love
to
that.
speak, if we're going to speak about ourselves as less than, why should society treat us as equals?
Hello. That's like the straight up truth. Like why would you expect anyone to treat you with dignity and respect if you're not even having dignity and respect for yourself? Mm. Dropping gems, y'all. She's dropping gems. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, you touched on something too, on spectrums, within every disability with the vision, it's within every eye condition, it's a spectrum. And if people don't understand what spectrums are, I feel like it's really important to bring some, awareness around that. And for me, with vision loss being my lived experience, I would say something like envision a foggy day when at the end of the street, you can't see the furthest house and the fog is rolling in. And as the fog's rolling in, you're losing the second house and the third house as it's coming towards you. Maybe somebody is walking towards you and all of a sudden you're just seeing sort of a shadow. That is a spectrum of just one type of eye condition, right? So it's so large. Or if you think of somebody who has only central vision and you think of toilet paper rolls and you're looking through them, and then you shrink that hole to be smaller and smaller and smaller. There's like a spectrum of central vision. So trying to help people to understand what spectrum is within disabilities, I think will help normalize or help other people understand the degrees of our differences.
I absolutely agree with that because I've never met someone. One, I've never met someone with lupus who was also an amputee and became an amputee because of the complications with their lupus. But I've also never met an amputee like me because a lot of the amputees I know are incredibly active and they don't have chronic illnesses. And then all the complications I've had from my lupus and being an amputee separately, I've never met anyone going through the things that I've gone through because of the severity of my inflammation. And then, I became an above and below knee amputee. So I only have one knee and no legs. And so I appreciate you bringing up the spectrum because I think oftentimes society wants to just put all disability in one box and say, oh, an elevator's enough. You're good. And it's like, but wait a minute, not entirely. And also not for everybody. So I
Yes.
appreciate you bringing up that spectrum.
I was having a conversation with a developer here in Edmonton about a week and a half ago, and we were talking. They build automatic doors, like the automatic doors, and I was having a conversation with him about placement, color contrast, how fast is the door open, how wide is the door, and all of these things. He's like, you know what? I just kind of go by the specs. I've never really like involved the people who are actually using it. And I said that's the problem, is people are designing for us without consulting us. And I said, that automatic door, yes, it is helpful for that person who uses a wheelchair. And people talk about there being such a big cost when it comes to building accessibility. Well, if you don't build it from the beginning, yeah, it's going to be a bigger cost. But if you build it from the beginning, it's not going to be a big cost. But that one person who's using that automatic door for that particular day, I can guarantee you, you have parents with strollers that are using that. You have the guy carrying 6 coffees in for everybody else using the automatic door. You've got somebody delivering the goods or carrying the boxes that's using that door. You are not creating the accessibility for the minority that is using it in the disability community. You are building it accessible for anyone who needs it. That person who broke their ankle 2 weeks ago and is using crutches and has a bag. So start thinking of accessibility as something that benefits everyone at different stages in life.
Amen and ashe. Heck yeah, like for real. And I think oftentimes people think, oh, that's just for you. No, 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 that's for we. That's all for everybody. And
Yeah.
I think back on years ago, I was pushing my lupus so hard. That's probably why I got to the point where I got with it now. But I was a full-time photographer and a photo assistant. And every day I was carrying around like 50 pounds of pictures. And I needed that accessibility so that I could carry my stuff all day, every day, and run around all the boroughs of the city delivering pictures and taking pictures. So accessibility is for everyone, y'all. Like straight up.
Yeah, and I also say too is like people don't realize the extra energy and effort it takes us to navigate life. Like they really don't consider that. If you say your park is accessible, but it's really not. By the time we've exerted the energy to get there and get out of the vehicle and start the trail, and it's not accessible, like you've depleted my energy for the whole day. And I say, think of when you've pulled that muscle in your back and you've got to go do something and that the next day it's going to put you out completely because you've exerted yourself so much. It's like be mindful when you are including people that you are making the whole thing as easy as possible, and also asking the questions, how can we make this better and easier for you? And having that at the end of your email, having that at the end of your webinar sign up sheet, at the end of a phone call. Like, is there anything that we can do that can support this interaction, event, conversation? That makes all the difference in the world, just for us to be able to have more energy to enjoy more of life.
Absolutely. We should not be an afterthought or not a thought at all. We should be right at the top of the list of thoughts because we have money too. We have jobs too. We're in school too. We have husbands and wives. We have all kinds of things going on in our lives, which make it so that we would probably participate in whatever things that you guys have going on. And if you don't make it accessible, then we can't go. Simple.
And when people make the assumptions not to include us, that, like, one of my things when I say to the kids is, I was excluded from going to a birthday party because I'm blind. Why would I go? And so I wasn't invited. And I said to the kids, I'm like, oh, I can bowl. I just put my cane in the gutter. I line it up with my hip. That allows me to stay straight. I can throw the ball. I'm like, does it matter if I get a strike? No. Does it matter that I was included? Yes. Does it matter that I'm having fun? Yes. But when you ask, you give me the opportunity to accept or decline because I know my abilities. And if I decline, I still feel included because you asked me. And also people,
Yes. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, and people also, like, I feel like you need to realize that, you know, there's times that we can't make things, and sometimes we have to cancel, and it's not just disappointing for you that we cancel on you, it's disappointing for us as well. But what happens is when people don't take the time and have the compassion to understand how challenging some things and exhausting some things are for us, over time, they stop inviting us, they stop including us, they stop just the phone call. And really, when you continue to reach out and you continue to include us, you do make our lives a lot better and less isolated than when people give up on us because they don't really understand how depleting things can be at times.
Absolutely. And I can't tell you how many people used to be my friends and then stop being my friends. I had a few people say, "You always have something going on," as if I was creating drama in their life because of how much I was in the hospital, because of something I couldn't control. And I feel like it's so, like we were bringing up before, it's so vitally important to have people around who are in your corner. But also when you have friends who are around, but like in a disingenuous, weird kind of way, who make your disability about them, it boggles my mind, because it's like, well, wait a minute, I'm still me. I might have lost a couple of parts. Now I have Barbie accessories as my prosthetics and my wheelchair and my walker and all my things, but like, come on, y'all, I'm still who I am.
Yeah.
So that's just, yeah, that's, just, we want to be included. And even if we can't show up, we still want to be included and we still want to be asked. And I've said that to people so many different times. They said, "Oh, we didn't think you'd come," or, "Oh, this wasn't very accessible," or whatever. It's like, it doesn't matter. You can still ask. I'll
Yeah.
say what I'm gonna say, but still do that, because that shows me that you, at the very least, you care to include me. And I
Yeah.
feel like that has been like the biggest topic about everything we've been talking about today, is like inclusion, like having us be included and involved in whatever scale that we are included and involved. That's more important than leaving us to the side, and then people wonder why we're not hanging out or why we're not there. It's like, number one, because you didn't ask, then you stopped asking, and then you just treated me like a complete afterthought. But also, you made it seem like I was the problem when there was no problem. So that's
Yeah.
that's so thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
Um, no, go ahead.
Cool.
Yeah. So, is there any other things? We've just been having such a great chat. Is there anything
Oh,
else that you wanted to mention?
well, I do want to mention, because I said I love kids, my program is called Youth Adapt. And so I bring in hands on activities for kids to try and have an experience. I talk about both apparent and non apparent disabilities. I don't say invisible or hidden, because nobody is invisible. Nobody needs to hide. They just have a non apparent disability that you can't see. And, we talk about the language, we talk about, accessibility. And when in classrooms, 4 to 6 kids here in Canada on an average have a learning difference. And so when I can share with kids examples of what dyslexia is, what ADHD is, what autism is, and how to be supportive, it really changes children's perspectives of understanding why their peers say and do things the way that they do. And that's where I had, that one child when I showed a form of dyslexia for all the kids to read, and they got to really experience how hard it is to, your brain to interpret letters that are upside down or backwards or overlapping or moving. And then learning when feeling overwhelmed intensifies somebody with a learning difference. And that could be they're losing focus because kids are talking, they're finished, they're moving around, they're chatting. And when somebody has a learning difference, it doesn't mean they're not intelligent. It just means their brain's not working the same way. I'll say to kids, like, could you imagine if you had to read everything that looked like this all day? Do you think it would be tiring? And I get kids to clap because I can't see raise hands raised. And I say, do you feel like when you're overwhelmed that it's harder to focus yourself? And it could be grandma's coming and I haven't seen her in a year and I'm so excited. Overwhelmed doesn't mean negative. But is it harder to focus and concentrate when you're overwhelmed? And all the kids say yes, of course. And I'll show them a more intensified version of what they read earlier. And I'll say somebody who has dyslexia or a learning difference that is reading and they're overwhelmed because of things that are going on in the classroom and they look down at their paper, it looks more like this. And kids are like, whoa. And are you going to be more tired at the end of the day if you had to read everything like this? And the kids are like, yeah. I'm like, do you think by the time the end of the day comes and you're on your way home and when your class wasn't supportive of you, is your life going to be harder and you're going to go home sadder? And they're like, yes. I'm like, so what can you do as a class to support a classmate whose brain just works different than you? If it's easy for you, what can you do to make it easier for somebody else? And then kids give me their feedback. And this is what's causing kids to become outside the box thinkers. How can we problem solve this? What can we do that's going to be helpful? And it changes the environment in the room. It creates a more inclusive classroom. And I'll also say, like, Braille is a way of, those of us who are blind to read and write, but that's also something that could be beneficial for kids who have learning differences. If their eyes and their brains aren't interpreting words the same way, why wouldn't we teach them to read with our fingers? Kids who have ADHD and can't focus and need fidgets, why wouldn't we be teaching them to read with their fingers? It gives them another tool in their belt. If we taught children from the very beginning to read the print letter A, the Braille letter A, and sign the letter A, no one would be left out. All of us, when we age, would still be able to be in conversation because we could sign if we have hearing loss, or if we have a stroke and can't speak, we can still sign. If we lose our vision, we can still read our own menu, we can still read our own mail. Like, nobody would be left out if we had these skills from the very beginning. Yeah.
That is such a great point, and I'm so glad that you are sharing those skills with those children, because that makes me feel so much better about the future. If we're educating these kids on true disability equity and showing them just how powerful being empathetic to your fellow classmates is, then hopefully they bring that into the rest of their lives and the rest of the world, and to their families and to their other friends and to everyone else, because I think that is so powerful and beautiful.
And what's great about this program is it can be in person and it can be online as well. So I've taught kids all across Canada, online, like just like I'm having conversations right here, like we're having this conversation. When we have these conversations with kids as well, they're absorbing all that information, even though they might not be getting necessarily those hands-on activities. But when we talk about them, they can relate to it, they could understand.
Absolutely. Well, you have been such an awesome interview, and I especially really and truly love what you're doing with those kids, because I really think that is going to help change the world and move us into such a better, positive direction. So,
Yeah,
thank you so much. I
great.
appreciate the hell out of you for that.
Yeah, and I have one more thing that I am actually super stoked about is I have been co-writing some children's books with Bernice Williams. So the series is called We're Not the Same. And this series is going to take kids from kindergarten through to teenage years with inclusion, sprinkled through of accessibility without calling disability out. It's our differences. We're not the same. How do we work together? So we've written our first 5 children's books. They're in with Etta Moffat right now being illustrated, which is super exciting. So coming September, we are hoping to, or we want to be launching our first tween novel and our first children's book. So yeah, we're just super stoked about this. It is creating kindness in the world. It is having kids being able to relate to either their own situations or to situations that are happening around them in their classrooms, family, and community, and being able to come out with some strategic ways of navigating situations that maybe they've never been in before. Example, one a little example is somebody likes to tap their pencil. Somebody who's doing that isn't necessarily doing it to upset the other classmates. It's something they're doing that's helping them focus. But when one student says, "Oh, I used to do that. I put elastic bands around my pen now, or I put a piece of rubber on the edge of my desk, and I can still do it and it doesn't bother my classmates as much." Like, those little things will take forward when that happens in next year's classroom or the classroom after that. And so all of these little, like, sprinkles of things that we can do to be supportive and helpful and kind to one another are all through these books. So yeah, We're Not the Same series will be out in September. And that's, yeah, Bernice Williams and I have been working really hard on these books. We've given them to teachers. They meet curriculum, they meet diversity, they meet inclusion. One of the characters is Tony. He's got ADHD. He's after my late brother. Josie is legally blind. My husband's name is Joe. That's how Josie got her name. DJ is Indigenous, and Bernice's dear friend is DJ. Raj is another very dear friend of Bernice. And Olivia is Tony's older sister who uses a wheelchair. And it's really cool adventures these kids go on, and really, neat ways of being able to partner and be inclusive.
That is so awesome. I love that so much. We're definitely going to be putting links to that in the show notes because I think there's going to be a lot of people who are interested in reading those books and also sharing them with the kids in their lives and sharing them at the schools that they're dealing with. And I was working on comic books years ago on amputee characters. So working on books is near and dear to my heart, for especially for young people, because I'm like, yo, we can turn so many different things into educational tools and have fun while we're doing it, and the kids will also have fun as well. So I love so much
Yeah.
that you're doing
And accurate representation. That is so important. And so that's with our books, is we're having accurate representation throughout them. And yeah,
that.
it's really awesome. At the end of all of the books are keeping the conversations going for teachers to keep conversations going, and activities that they can do with the classroom without creating any more work for teachers. We're creating the supports that they need through this series.
That is so awesome. I love that so much. Oh gosh. Well, it has been such a joy chatting with you, Gina. We're gonna have all this information in the show notes for y'all, so you can reach out to Gina and get a copy of those books and share them with everyone. And if you need any trainings or any resources or any additional education, you can also reach out to her too. So thank you so much for being with us today. I really and truly appreciated this education and also this episode and also chatting with you and meeting you. So thank you so much, y'all, and have a good rest of your day.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and thanks. Yeah, great meeting you.